Welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Sandel. He is the professor at Harvard University and the author of multiple best-selling books, including Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do, What Money Can Buy, The Moral Limits of Markets. And BBC once referred to him as the philosopher with the global profile of a rock star. He led civic debates with the students from Japan, the United States, and China in 白熱教室, which was broadcasted on NHK in 2022 and 2023. Today, he's recreating 白熱教室 with our students from Tokyo Metropolitan University. And I'm very excited. Please join me in welcoming Professor Michael Sandel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ito, for that generous introduction. And thank you to the students of Tokyo Metropolitan University for joining me for this discussion. And I do hope it will be a discussion. In fact, I would like to begin by asking the students a question. Suppose there were a race. We're about to have the Olympic Games. Let's suppose it's a foot race. And everyone begins the race, let's imagine, at the same starting line. Provided that's true, would you say that whoever wins that race deserves to win? And I'd like to ask for a show of hands. How many would say yes? If everyone starts the race at the same starting line, then whoever crosses the finish line first deserves to win the race. How many say yes? And how many say no? Not necessarily. First, raise your hand if you say yes. And how many of you say no? Not necessarily. All right, so we have some on both sides here, Dr. Ito. May I invite one of the students who voted? Let's start with those who voted no. The winner of the race, even of a race where everyone starts at the same starting line, does not necessarily deserve the winnings. Why not? Who will begin our discussion? Someone who voted no. Who will begin our discussion? Yes. And tell us your name.
My name is Sean. Nice to meet you, sir. I think if the races are not equal, for example, if there's a person who is running for his first time in his life, and if there's a runner who had like a coach who taught him how to run faster, there's kind of a difference between those people, so that's not equal. So I think if the person who had training before the race, it's not equal. I don't think it's equal for that case.
Okay, very good. It's not equal because even if everyone starts the race at the same starting line, some may have had very good coaching and training, others maybe not. So the race doesn't really begin, people don't begin the race with the same advantages. Sean, yes? All right, now let's hear from someone who disagrees, someone who thinks the race is fair and the winner deserves the winning. Someone who voted for that view, what would you say to the argument that Sean has raised? Who will offer a reply? Yes. Shun.
Set aside this coaching or the advantage the winner of the race got in his life. I think result matters. So
the result matters.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
And it matters how. Would you say, Shun, that the result is fair, even if one of the runners had a great coach and some of the other runners did not?
In my opinion, yes.
And what about the fact that the extra training makes the race unequal? What do you say to that argument?
I think I'm not really sure about that.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see if there's someone who also thinks that the race is fair, provided everyone starts at the same time, and would like to add to the argument that Shun presented. Who else? Remind me, who else in the room thought that the race is fair? Raise your hand again if you took that view. All right. Now, Kodai, will you help support Shun? What do you say to the argument raised by Sean about some having extra training in coaching?
In my opinion, everybody had a equal starting line, so I think it's fair. And supporting Shun would be like if one person had a better coach than anyone else, the other people could have how do I say done catch some better coaches or giving money to have better coaches so that he could run better or have better supporters to run faster and achieve that goal. So if everybody had a same starting line, I think it's fair to it deserves winning when he crossed the goal line first.
And could I ask you a follow-up question?
Yep.
Suppose that some of the runners come from low-income families or low-income countries and can't afford to pay for good training facilities and for good coaching. Does that make the race unequal? Does it make the race unfair?
In that case, I think it's a bit unfair for the people who have lower income, but I think the people who have lower income should join in a race that he could easily achieve a goal. And if the person is in the same starting line with people who have more higher income, then he's in a bad place. So he need to choose the place. He need to change the place to win the game. And yes.
So people who come from low-income backgrounds should choose to run in a different, less competitive race if they can't afford good coaching. Is that what you're suggesting, Kodai?
Yeah, I think so. People who have different environment or different backgrounds should fight within the good environment. And
yes,
yeah,
very good. Okay, thank you for that. Now, I would like to. We've begun by imagining a foot race, but now let's consider that the race is a metaphor for university admissions. Who wins admission? to a university. And let's suppose that admission is determined by how well students do on the entrance examinations to the university. And let's assume that everyone is able to take the entrance examination. That's like starting the race at the same starting line. But some do better on that exam than others. Now, let's take another vote, a vote on this case. Would you say that so long as everyone has the right to take the exam for university entrance, those who score highest deserve to get into university, and those who don't do so well do not deserve to get in? That the test, so long as it's open to everyone, is fair. How many say yes, so long as the test can be taken by anyone? The best scores should determine who wins admission to the university. Raise your hand if you say yes, that's fair. And now raise your hand if you disagree, if you think that it's not necessarily fair. Well, here again, we have some disagreement. Let's hear from someone who hasn't yet spoken yet, who thinks that it's not fair to determine access to university on the basis of an exam, even if everyone can take the entrance exam. Who will tell us why it's not fair? What's unfair about it? Let's in the front. But before you pass the microphone back behind you, does the person in the front row want to? No? Go ahead. You start. And
I'll start.
What's your name?
Hello, my name is Finn.
Yes.
I don't think that an exam is a good determiner of whether one should be admitted into education. I think intelligence and knowledge goes a lot further beyond an exam. Yes, that's my opinion.
And so how would you decide if not based on the exam?
I haven't come up with an answer for that one yet, but
yes.
I just don't think that one exam should be the determiner of acceptance into education, because people can show their knowledge in other ways, like through, like for myself personally, I entered higher education through like a bridging program. So because I didn't initially have the marks, my university allowed me to enter through a program where I did an extra year of light study. And it wasn't, I didn't have to achieve, pardon me, a specific grade, but as long as I showed that I was able to commit myself to the program, then I was able to enter university.
Okay, very good. So that's why you're not in favor of admission based on the exam alone. And now let's go to the person sitting behind you who had something also to say. Ian.
Hello, my name is Ian. I think the reason for me personally why I believe it's fair is because it assumes that the person who got the best mark is the most deserving. It assumes that the best mark equates to the most intelligence. But there's a lot of other factors that go into that beyond just intelligence. For example, if you come from a family with high socioeconomic background, if you come from a family that was able to get good SAT tutors, for example, in America, those factors predispose you to be in the best position to do well in that specific exam. And what the exam mark actually measures isn't actually your academic aptitude or your intelligence. It's your ability to do well on that specific day, on that specific exam, with those specific questions. And while it's not like a completely flawed measure, it does have some benefits. To say that it completely accurately measures one's intelligence or one's academic ability, I think it's a bit of a misnomer.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Ian and Finn. So you're both you're both skeptics of the reliance on exams for university entrance. You don't think it's fair necessarily. And let's hear now some people voted that it is fair. So I'd like to hear someone who disagrees with Finn and Ian. And maybe if the camera can show us the rest of the classroom, people sitting over on the other side, so that I can see who are the ones, remind me, who voted that, yes, that's good, thank you, who voted that it is fair that those who score best on the entrance exams are the ones who are admitted to university. Yuta, what do you tell us why?
Thank you. I think those who get enough score on the entrance exam will worth the entrance to the university, because as both of them said, the people's ability differs. Some people might have a lot of motivation or ability to do research, or might have ability to do well on not just on exam but on other things. However, I think if the person have a lot of motivation or ability to do some research on the academic field, I think they can also get enough score on the entrance exam. So I think despite the difference of people's ability, I think entrance exam can be a good factor, or good a good option to choose the person who enters the university.
Okay, and may I ask you a question, Yuta?
Yeah, of course.
That? Suppose it turns out that the students who generally score highest on the entrance exams tend to be students who come from affluent families with higher than average income. And suppose those who don't do so well on exams disproportionately come from lower income families. If that pattern were true, then do you think it would be unfair to admit students based on exam results, if exam results reflect family income and opportunities? What do you think?
Well, I know that some students have very different background, and some might from a poor family, or some might from very local area of the country. However, I think because of the spread in the internet, it is very easy to study about the exam. For example, I didn't when I studied for the entrance exam, I didn't go to the cram school or any private lessons. I just searched it online, and I took some online courses. That is very cheap to take. So, or they might be able to research on YouTube, so to listen to the lectures by the YouTube teachers. So even when they do not have enough money, or even when they do not have enough access, it is very easy to study and prepare for the exam. So even though the difference of backgrounds, I think the result of the entrance exam reflects their ability.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, Yuta, you're saying that the availability of low-cost online cram courses makes it possible for students from low-income families to study and prepare and compete. And
right, yeah.
Yes, I would like to see, that's a very interesting observation. I'd like to see how many students in the room agree with that. Well, first, I'd like to ask even a prior question. Yuta took advantage of internet resources, online preparation for the university entrance exam. If we can pull the camera back, I'd like to see how many students in the room who are listening also took advantage of online prep courses or cram courses to prepare for the university entrance exam? Raise your hand if you did. Use online, relatively inexpensive online test prep courses. So quite a few people did. Now, does that suggest that the internet and resources available at low cost on the internet are a force for greater equality? Or not necessarily? What do people think about that? How many think that or who would like to speak to that question? Does everyone agree with Yuta that the internet makes it possible for anyone to prepare without going to an expensive cram school? Or does the internet compensate for inequality? Who says, is there someone who doesn't think so? Ian doesn't think so. Anybody else? Or Finn doesn't think so. Who else? Let's have a look at the rest of the class, the rest of the group. Are there others who disagree with Yuta, who don't think that the internet is a solution to unequal family income and preparation? All right. Go ahead, Shun. What do you think?
Well, certainly the internet really did rose up the bottom of the knowledge in let's say university applicants, but not really did something really effective for upper class university applicants. Like internet is like a massive flow of information, so lies every kinds of information, whether it's good or bad, wrong or right. Like we see Wikipedia. Wikipedia is really a fine source, but there are a lot of worthless articles that refers these free articles in a wrong way.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, internet is really a nuisance for some of learners, in my opinion.
Did you make use of it when you were preparing for university entrance exams? Shun?
Pardon?
Did you use internet resources to prepare for a university entrance exam?
Yeah, I did, especially mathematics and sciences and stuff.
And did it help?
In my opinion, yes. There are some websites that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I would like to ask, because I want to learn more from this group, from you, about Tokyo Metropolitan University, which is unusual in some respect, because I've been told that 25% of Tokyo Metropolitan University students come from families that are below the median income of Japanese families. The 25% do not come from upper income families, and that's quite impressive. That's a real achievement. Now, I've also read that that for those who live in Tokyo, Tokyo Metropolitan University is tuition free. Am I right about that? Just as of this year, that if you live in the Tokyo prefecture, you don't have to pay tuition fees. Is that right? Yes? And how many say that's a good thing? Let's see the whole class. I want to see how many people think that it's a good thing that if you come from Tokyo, you don't have to pay any tuition or fees to attend. Raise your hand if that's a good thing. Let's see. Let the camera show. Most people say it's a good thing, who does not think it's a good thing? Raise your hand if you don't think Tokyo Metropolitan University should be tuition free. Okay, a number of people don't. That's interesting. So who will tell us why? Those who think it should not be tuition free. Seated a few rows back in the green shirt. Let's go. There's someone seated a few rows back. You say, well, if we pass you the microphone, you think it isn't such a good thing that the university is tuition free. Why not?
And I'm not disagree because I'm not living in Tokyo City. I'm living next town, so I'm not. I think it's not fair. People living in Tokyo gathering this university, but yeah, I think yeah, people living in Tokyo more want to come in school, and so I think university should spread the chance to other cities, I think.
So anyone in Japan, do you think that anyone in Japan should be able to attend without paying a tuition fees?
Yeah. If only Tokyo people for free is not fair. If the university do like that, or people in Japan should all people in Japan takes free to yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So you think it should be free to all Japanese applicants?
I think it's not unfair.
Yeah. Okay. So there's an interesting argument. Why only residents of Tokyo should be able to attend tuition free? Those of you who voted in favor of this policy, is there someone who has a reply to Yusei's argument that everyone in Japan should be able, if they're qualified, to attend the university for free? What would you say to that argument? Yes, in the fourth row. Okay, Shia, go ahead. Yes, please.
Hello, Professor Sandel. My name is Xia, and I suppose don't agree that every people in Japan get free for to the university, because we know Tokyo Metropolitan University is built by the free tax from Tokyo City. So the people who is the resident in Tokyo pay the tax to the Tokyo City. So they kind of made a contribution to Tokyo City. So the students, the residents in Tokyo may have the right to get free to go to the Tokyo Metropolitan University.
Whereas someone who lives in Osaka did not pay taxes to Tokyo and therefore should not have free tuition at Tokyo Metropolitan University. Is that right?
Yes, because there are also different public university in Osaka too. So maybe people will choose whatever they live. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. So who would like to reply to what Jia has said? Jia has defended the idea that Tokyo residents only should have tuition-free access because Tokyo taxpayers support the university. Does everyone agree with that, or would someone like to challenge that idea? Yes, in the fourth row. Yes, Utah again.
Well, I think that it is unfair that only Tokyo Metropolitan University is tuition free, but I think it's not that bad thing because this could be an experiment. I mean, I do not know whether if all the university became tuition free, I think students might lose the motivation to work hard on university, on studying in the university. I don't know whether it would work well or not to make all the university tuition free. So I think by making only Tokyo Metropolitan University tuition free, I think this could be the experiment to check the effect of making universities tuition free.
And based on what you've observed so far among your classmates, Utah, do you think that the fact that tuition is now free leads students not to work very hard on their studies?
No, I think they study very hard on a lot of classes, but I think, I think they're trying very hard.
So you think that so far, at least, it doesn't seem to be reducing the motivation of students.
Yeah, right. So this might not be a very good experiment.
But in general, do you think we work harder and value opportunities more if we have to pay for them?
Well, I think so because, as I said, most of students in this university trying very hard to study the subject they're learning. However, this is because only this university is tuition free. However,
right.
For example, some European countries, some universities and European universities are all tuition free. For example, like German or French university do not, the student in German or French university do not have to pay tuition fee. But I heard that the proportion of students to drop out from the university is relatively higher than Japan and such European countries. So, if all the universities get tuition free, it might lose. It might decrease the motivation for students to study hard.
Good. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Who else would like to join this discussion about whether? Yes, in the fourth row, and tell us your name.
Yeah, this is Shuhei, and I
Shuhei.
think I disagree with the idea that all universities should be the admission free because in the public university, because if doing so, then another competition, another discrimination will be happen. I mean, the gap, the admission fee gap between the private school and public school will be get bigger. Then for the in the public school, the competition will be higher. But in other hands, the private school, as for the private university, there will be the less competition situation because only more and more children try to get into the public school.
More and more will try to get into the public universities if they're tuition free.
Yeah.
And this will be unfair to the private universities. Is that your worry?
Because only people with enriched family can try to get into the public school, private university.
Yes.
That's why. So I would like to say that even if the try to admission free in the public school is not do not always make a fair in the all over the market of the university.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Would anyone else like to offer an opinion on this topic? If not, I would like to ask about something that came up earlier. We've been talking about Tokyo Metropolitan University, the fact that it's now tuition free, and the impressive fact that 25% of the students come from families below the median income. The same is not true of some other universities in Japan or the United States or European countries. At Todai, for example, at the University of Tokyo, I read that over 60% of students come from families that are in the top 15% of family income. Over 60% come from affluent families. Now, I'd like to take another vote here. How many think that's unfair? And how many do not think that's unfair? That over 60% of students at Todai come from affluent families, those in the top 15% of income. How many find that unfair? Raise your hand. And how many do not consider that unfair? Raise your hand. All right, let's see. So here we have quite a disagreement in the group. Those who think it's unfair, why do you think so? Who will begin? Is there someone who hasn't yet spoken who would like to speak about why you consider it unfair that such a high proportion of the students at University of Tokyo come from affluent families? Those of you who think it's unfair, why do you think so? Anyone who voted that way, even if you've already spoken, you can volunteer again. Yes, okay, Shohei.
Yeah, I think this is a so difficult question, and I think just we have to consider the not only fair or unfair, but also we have to check. We have to think in terms of the result and the process. I think when thinking about the result, it's fair because just judged by the score of the examination. However, when thinking about the process before the taking the exams, then maybe it's unfair because children in rich family have a lot of chance to take a good education. In other hand, children with export for such a family cannot take enough chance to take that.
All right. So the chances are not fair. The opportunities are not fair, it seems. And I could add, I was just asking you about the University of Tokyo. Many students coming from well-off families. The same is true at the university where I teach. At Harvard, there are more students who come from families in the top 1% than there are students who come from families in the bottom 50% of the income scale combined. So that's an even more dramatic kind of class inequality. And so we're discussing whether that's fair or unfair. Shohei has distinguished between fairness in the results and fairness in the process. Yes? Who thinks who thinks it's fair? Who doesn't think there's a problem with it, and who will tell us why? Let's have a look if the camera can move to the other side of the room. Anyone there? Kumiko, what do you think? How did you vote? Fair or unfair?
I didn't vote actually, but listening Shohei's opinion, I think I agree with him that the process is unfair, but the result is fair.
And so the process is unfair. Why? Because not everyone has an equal chance to prepare to excel on the entrance exam?
Yeah. I think so, yes. They, how family consider about the education, higher education, or the environment in that school, that everyone goes to university or everyone goes to just high school and work.
Yeah.
It's a different.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, Kumiko. Who is prepared to defend the fairness of both the process and the result? Now you've heard Shohei and Kumiko say that the opportunity doesn't seem to be fair because it doesn't seem to be equal. Some students seem to have advantages in preparation. In a way, this goes back to the race, doesn't it? When we were considering that everyone starts the race at the same starting point, but may have had better coaching, especially if coaching is expensive. What about who thinks it is fair? Yes, Rio, tell us why.
In capitalism, people say working hard and increase the stock money is a good thing. And I think in entrance examination depends on environment, including the economic level of their parents or teachers. So in my opinion, parents who have much money, have, for example, children, and children can get good education is a good thing.
That's a good thing. And if the parent has a lot of money, and can support the child to prepare well to compete for entrance, that's a good thing, Rael, you say.
Yes, I think so.
And what do you say to Kumiko and Shohei, who say that it's unfair because the child, it's not the child's fault if they were born into a family that lacked enough income and wealth, is it? It's just their. What do you say to that argument?
In this country, in Japan, the number of children is few. Is a great big issue. So
yes.
So I think if children get the opportunity to go to university, I think they can get that opportunity.
Whether or not they come from an affluent family.
So I think whether they are affluent or not affluent is not important.
Okay. I would like to ask you and everyone here about something I've read about, a Japanese phrase, oya gaka. I may not be pronouncing it well. Oya gaka. Dr. Ito, am I pronouncing that right, or perhaps you should pronounce it for me?
Right, it's oya gacha.
Oya gacha.
Gacha.
Oya gacha. All right. Is there someone here among the, thank you. Is there someone among the students who can tell me what that means? What does oya gacha mean? Who will help me understand what that means? Yes, go ahead, sitting in the middle. What's your name? Oh, you're Kodai.
My name is Kodai. Oya gacha means that people who have, like, it's a possibility that there's a chances that children have better parents than or bad parents, and gacha means like it's randomly like chosen, like whether you are in a good family or bad family, and like if you say you are in good oya gacha, means like you are in a good position, in like you have a good family income, and you have a better like better income to like support the family, and adding to that oya gacha, I want to like tell my opinion that I think it's the students have equal opportunities to like attend university, but the rules of university is not equal. Like we need to like change equal to equity. Like people who have more income should pay a bit more than people who have lower income, so that they have a balance to support the university, and the people who have lower income could also attend university to have the better education.
I see. Okay, so let me start with that last suggestion you made, Kode. Could I ask you a follow-up?
Yep.
So one thing, when we were discussing the tuition-free policy for Tokyo Metropolitan University, we were discussing whether it's fair for only Tokyo residents to qualify for free tuition.
Yep.
But a second question that we might ask is, why should everyone who lives in Tokyo, even if they come from wealthy families, attend tuition free? Why shouldn't, let's say, those who come from affluent families pay some tuition and make it free only for those, let's say, who who can't afford it?
I think that's, in my opinion, it's a bit different problem of the price of the fee of the tuition, because people who are living in Tokyo, like they are paying taxes like education, and the fees goes to like supporting the university, and they are like paying. But the people already living in residence like in Osaka or Hokkaido, they are not paying the taxes of the education of their university. So it's, I think it's the different aspect of like money fluency that goes to like university, and the like in people who are like in I don't know the schools, for example, in private schools, they gather every student a lot of money, but in that case, higher income families should pay a bit more, and lower income families should like have the opportunity to have lower fees to attend the university.
Okay, thank you for that. Now I want to go back to the point about oyagacha. Now, I'm learning about the meaning of this term, which is really it's like a lottery based on chance. Only in this case, the lottery is not playing a game. The lottery is the chance involved in whether I'm born into a well-off family or into a low-income family. Insofar as my prospects in education and in life depend in part on the lottery, the chance of the family into which I'm born, is that element of chance unfair? After all, children can't choose which families to be born into. That's just a matter of luck, isn't it? Would you say that oyagacha is a source of unfairness in education and in life? How many say that it is? Raise your hand if you think that oyagacha, the lottery of birth, is a source of unfairness. And how many think not? Raise your hand if you think it is a source of unfairness, oyagacha. And how many think it is not a source of unfairness? So the majority think that it is, but a substantial number think not. Let's hear from someone who thinks it is a source of unfairness. Finn, you said it's unfair. Do you want to tell us why? Finn. Or go ahead, Sean. Sean, you speak first.
Thank you. I think it's just the fact of Japan that how lucky you are matters. Like we talked about university, but it's also the same for like when you want to apply for a job, for example. So like for my case in high school, I had many friends who weren't so much rich but who really worked hard at education, but they just couldn't compete with the people who went to a higher level high school in my city, in my town, that is expensive but has like better classes, better teachers. So those students who goes to that high school went to like, of course, Todai, but higher level university. And in Japan, just because you went to a higher university, there's still some companies who think that you are a good person, you are higher educated, so we want you compared to people for example, who went to Tokyo Metropolitan University, there is still some companies who do those kind of things. So if you just go back to the point, because you were born in an unrich family, you couldn't have the opportunity to go to a better education high school. Then, because then you couldn't go to a higher educated university, then it all goes to the point that you can't go to a better company. So I think this is just unfair.
Let me ask you, could I ask you a follow-up question, Sean?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned some companies give preference in hiring to graduates of, let's say, Todai.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that that's fair or unfair for companies to hire based on the universities that job applicants attended? Do you think that's fair or unfair?
I think it's unfair.
It's unfair.
Because in Japan, there's a word like jimachi or like nitto komasen. This is just a group of universities. Just because it's so famous that everybody knows if you go to a university in that group, it means you went to a higher educated university. So I heard many friends that, for example, Tokyo Metropolitan University is not, it is one of the higher educated universities compared in Japan. But just because for example, Meiji or Aoyama Gakuin University, of course, Tokyo University, those universities are so popular and everybody in Japan knows that those people are higher educated. Everybody thinks just because of that fact, they can soon know that they are higher educated people. So I think this is one of the reasons why some companies still think that just because hearing the name of the university, they think these people are higher educated and better people. So I think that's unfair.
That's unfair because it's untrue.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Thanks for that, for introducing that really interesting question. Is there someone who disagrees with Sean? Is there someone who thinks companies should take into account in hiring what universities a job applicants attended? Yuta?
I think it's fair because, when company want to choose the person to hire, they need some index to choose, because they cannot check all the person who has applied to the entrance. And I think the level of university is a very good index to check the ability of students, because those who enter to the higher education university have the ability to try hard to prepare the entrance examination and have the higher ability to tackle the problems that they have confronted.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's let Sean reply. You stay there. Can you keep the microphone there?
Okay.
And let's see what Sean says in reply.
So yeah, I personally think, I don't want to be so negative to some universities, but for example, we'll be talking about the start line of the race, but the start line of the exam is just a middle point of your total life. So just because you had a good score in the exam, it doesn't mean that you had for example, a better process we were talking about. So just because you had a good score in the exam, you were able to enter a better university, it doesn't mean that in the university, during your university life, you had a super good, for example, education, you studied really hard.
Right.
It doesn't mean just because you entered a higher education, that it doesn't mean that. So for example, even though you go to a lower educated university, some people study really hard and they get a master's degree. So if you compare to those people who went to a higher university but didn't study hard, and the people who went to a lower university but study really hard and become like the same level as those people, there's a gap between that. So I do agree with his point that companies just can't interview every people. But I think that's the bad system of Japan. If that changes, I think it becomes more equal.
Because you think that companies, when they favor graduates of certain universities, are really favoring the ability to do well on those entrance exams, which were some years ago and may not be a true measure of what the students have learned since.
Yes. So just because of a test, the people who did 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it doesn't think about they are not valuing the 4 years in university so much.
Right.
I'm sure they will do some interview and talk about those 4 years, but at the first point, the first thinking is not fair, I think.
Good. Okay. So let's let Yuta reply. What do you say?
Well, I understand his opinion that the entrance examination of university is just the middle point of their life, and they might get more ability through the 4 years of the undergraduates. However, I think most Japanese companies are trying to find people who has the probability to get better in their companies. I mean, the possibility to get better when in the training of each company. So to check the something like I don't know how to say, but to check the nature ability. I mean the possibility. To check the possibility of some person, I think entrance examination is a very good tool.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to thank both Yuta and Sean for this debate back and forth, because you have helped us clarify the issue and the question. Even though this exchange did not produce agreement, it helped illuminate the question of fairness and in relation to education and hiring that we've been discussing. Lying behind the questions we've been discussing, beginning with the race and then extending to what is a fair system of university admission, and now finally the question of hiring. What is a fair policy for companies to use when hiring? In each of these debates, we have noticed in the background different ideas about equality. What does equality really mean? What does equality of opportunity consist in? What does it mean to respect applicants or competitors as equals? Now, equality is one ideal that we discuss and debate when we set admissions policies or hiring policies. Another related ideal, when we look at a society and its opportunities, is the chance for one generation to rise, the chance of a child to rise through effort and hard work and talent to do better than their parents' generation. And so this is really a question not of equality, but of mobility, of upward mobility. And some people argue that we don't need to worry so much about equality of starting points, so long as the society enables children from low-income families to work hard and to rise to affluence when they grow up. So this is the question of mobility, intergenerational mobility. I would like to ask everyone in the room the following question. Do you think that this generation, your generation of college students, do you expect that this generation will do better in terms of economic well-being than your parents' generation? How many here expect that you will do better economically than your parents? Raise your hand if you think so. And how many don't think so? How many think that you will not do better than your parents economically? So quite a few people do not think so. Now, it's impossible to predict the future in this respect, but there have been studies of intergenerational mobility rates comparing countries in this respect, rates of upward mobility. And the countries with the greatest chance for upward mobility, for children to rise and do better than their parents, children from poor families, are countries in Northern Europe, the Netherlands, Denmark, for example, Finland, Norway, Sweden. The OECD did a study and asked, at current rates of intergenerational mobility, the chance to rise, how many generations would it take for a child who was born into a poor family, bottom 10% of their country's income scale, to rise to the median? In Denmark, it takes, on average, only 2 generations. What do you think? How many generations do you think it takes on average in Japan? What would you guess? Ian says, what, 7? 8, you think, Ian? Well, who else has a guess? Just hold up the number of generations you think it would take for someone born into a low-income family to rise to the median. What do you think? Anyone else have a guess? Well, if it's only 2 generations in Denmark, in Japan, on average, it takes 4 generations. Do you think the U.S. it takes longer, or it's easier or harder to rise? What do you think? Than in Japan. It's harder in the U.S. Less mobility in the U.S. In the U.S., it takes 5 generations. So this suggests that individual upward mobility may not be an adequate answer to inequality. It isn't in many societies, certainly in my country. It takes quite a while to achieve upward mobility, even though we talk a lot and have this very strong belief in the American dream of upward mobility. It's not so easy to rise. Now, I have lots more questions I would like to put to the students, Dr. Ito, but I also would like to provide an opportunity for students to ask me questions, or for you, Dr. Ito, to pose some questions that you would like to put to me. So before I offer some words of conclusion, shall we open the questions to students, or to questions that you might like to pose, Dr. Ito, as students perhaps formulate the questions they would like to ask?
Sure. I believe students have questions, so you're welcome to ask questions.
thank you for that thought. It's a complex series of thoughts, really, if I understand you correctly. But you begin with the thought, and I do suggest this in my book, The Tyranny of Merit, that although higher education is often seen as the solution to inequality, the chance to rise, we see universities as engines of upward mobility. In fact, education, higher education especially, can reinforce inequality rather than reduce inequality. And the reason is what we've been discussing here today, which is that access to higher education depends to a significant degree on being well off in the first place. And so it seems to me if we worry about our societies becoming more equal, and the United States is a far more unequal society in terms of income and wealth than Japan is. Japan has much greater degree of equality. But if we worry about growing inequality, I think we have to look beyond higher education as the solution. We do need to provide access to those who can't afford to pay tuition fees. That's very important. But we also need to find ways to boost the income, the earnings, the job prospects, and the respect of those who may not be able to attend university, which, after all, we have to remember the majority of our fellow citizens in the United States, in Japan, and in European democracies, the majority do not have university degrees. So we need to ensure dignified work and decent pay for those without university diplomas, as well as those who are able to achieve them. Thank you for the question. Yes. Real. Thank you for the question, and I'm glad to hear that you're in radiology, because this is an enormously important part of medicine. My opinion about access to healthcare, including cancer treatment, is that it should not depend on how much money you have or how much money your parents have, whether you get good care for cancer or for other aspects of medical care. I favor those healthcare systems that make access to healthcare and to medicine and to cancer treatments depend only on medical need, not on how much money you have. We talked earlier about the Oyagacha, the lottery. Why should people's health depend on the lottery of their birth or on the luck to be affluent rather than of middle income or lower income? So I'm in favor of those systems of healthcare that allocate healthcare based on medical need, not based on wealth. And the U.S. healthcare system with Obamacare, as you mentioned, goes somewhat in that direction. But other countries, such as Britain and Canada and many of the Northern European countries, Germany, have healthcare systems that provide access without regard to the ability to pay. And I think that from the standpoint of justice and from the standpoint of a good society, that's a better way to allocate healthcare.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and good luck to you in your career. Well, I would say, first of all, thank you for the question. And I agree with you to this extent, that there are many successful people who are able to retain a sense of humility, who are able to remember and acknowledge the luck and good fortune that helped them on their way, who can recall their indebtedness to those who made their achievements and their success possible, including family and coaches and teachers and members of the community, the country in which they live, who contributed to their success. So you're right, in the tyranny of merit, I'm arguing against the idea that our success is our own doing. And I worry that believing it's our own doing will lead us to lack humility. So, but I certainly think you're right that there are some successful people who are at the same time humble and acknowledging the role of luck in life. Does that mean that we should simply rely on charity and philanthropy alone? I don't think so. I think part of what it is to organize a society that takes full advantage of the talents and contributions that the most successful are able to make to the society. I think that a just society, a good society, asks those who are successful and who recognize their indebtedness and who acknowledge their good luck to pay their fair share in taxes to provide for the public provision of goods, including education and including healthcare for everyone, including those less fortunate than themselves. So that's how I think we should put humility into practice. And that's, I think, the connection between humility and solidarity, a sense of responsibility for all members of the community, the successful, the more successful, and the less successful alike. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Who else has a question? Yes, that's right. I think you make a very good point, Ian. And we see this in the Olympics. The Olympic athletes train very hard. They expend enormous effort in their training. And yet, I could train 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and still not win an Olympic gold medal in running or in swimming or in any of those competitions. So you're right that success, whether in sports or in education or whether in the economy, depends partly on effort and hard work, partly on talents, blessings, and gifts, and partly on luck, being in the right place at the right time, or meeting this person or that person who opened up an opportunity or who offered inspiration. And what this means is that within families and within societies, we have to find a way to encourage people to take responsibility for their actions, for cultivating their talents. We want to praise people and admire people who deploy their talents and develop their talents to contribute to the common good, while at the same time remembering and hoping that the successful also remember that having those talents and living in a society that prizes those talents is my good fortune, not my due, not something I deserve, which is where the humility comes in. And it's not always easy to hold those two ideas together or to cultivate them in our children as we raise our children to both to work hard and to retain humility and a sense of their good fortune, but also thinking about a society as a whole. So in many ways, overcoming what I've called the tyranny of merit, reclaiming a sense of humility in the face of success and achievement depends on creating a balance, holding in a creative tension these two stances toward success and striving and contribution. Because in the end, we're talking about what it means to make a valuable contribution to the society and to the common good. Thank you for that.
Is it okay if I ask one follow-up question?
Go ahead. Right. I think it's a good thing to encourage people and to inspire people to reach for lofty goals, even though the odds may be against them. But I've now come to the conclusion that I will never be an NBA basketball star. And so, and I guess it is, you mentioned, Ian, when you were 12, 13, 14 years old, you were thinking about this in relation to height or and other aspirations.
Most definitely.
Okay, well, so there the question really is, what should parents teach their kids when it comes to encouraging them to reach for their dreams, even though those dreams may be a very long reach? And also enabling the parents need to enable their children to accept disappointment. And it's easier to accept disappointment if we don't assume or teach our children to believe that their success is their own doing. Because not only does that lead to a lack of humility among those who succeed, it also leads to a demoralizing sense of failure when we don't realize our dreams. And life is about disappointment as well as about triumphs. And so parents need to teach, and our societies also need to teach the kind of ambition, but also the kind of humility that prevents the successful from inhaling too deeply of their own success and forgetting the luck and good fortune that helped them on their way, but also the humility that enables those who fall short, and we all do fall short at one time or another of our dreams. We should not take the full weight of that burden on ourselves as a kind of devastating judgment that we ourselves have failed. So we've talked a lot about, it's interesting, we began this discussion by debating different ideas of equality. But as the discussion has unfolded, and maybe this is a good place, Dr. Ito, to kind of bring it to a conclusion, we found ourselves talking about humility. Equality is an abstract idea. Humility is a virtue. It's a personal virtue. It's a civic virtue because it describes how we respond both toward, as Ian is pointing out, both toward the moments of success when we achieve our dreams and toward our moments of disappointment when we fall short. I suppose it reins in the tendency to hubris, to excessive pride when we succeed, but it can also be a kind of consolation for those moments, and they're inevitable when we fall short. So humility, it's a civic virtue we need now, especially at a time when in so many democracies around the world, our politics is polarized. And we begin to wonder, can we reason together about the common good? It seems further and further from our reach. And I would just say, Dr. Ito, in conclusion, that listening to this discussion, participating really in this discussion at Tokyo Metropolitan University, gives me a kind of hope and admiration. But the hope is for the possibility that we can reason across our disagreements. And the admiration is for the terrific job this group of students has done in engaging with some of the big ethical and philosophical questions we confront in our civic life, but also in our everyday lives as human beings. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Dr. Ito, for convening us and for organizing this session.
So thank you so much, Professor Sandel, for a very lively discussion. I guess we are indebted to him, and we should continue this civic debate on our own, so we can learn how to be humble. And when we are unsuccessful, maybe don't blame ourselves, but we also think about the circumstances or environments that may contribute for us not to be successful. So I guess it's our duty. And I would like to thank everyone who are here and who organized this event. It was a wonderful event. And I want to acknowledge your hard work as well. So thank you so much for Professor Sandel. Please give another round of applause. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.